We are on page 35. Last class, we discussed the idea of miracles and Amalek. Now we're going to talk all about Yom Kippur. Am I in the wrong class? What do you mean? About Yom Kippur, no? No, it's talking about Yom Kippur. I know it's a Purim class, but there is a strong connection, a very famous connection we have to figure out between Yom Kippur and Purim. I'm sure you've seen this before. Yom Kippur is a day, what's ka? Like Purim. You've had that before, haven't you? A very famous Chazal, but there's a lot of depth to it and understanding. And the rabbis point out that there's going to be two forms of relationship we see. There's two ways we connect to our Judaism. There's a Yom Kippur connection, and there's a Purim connection. Yom Kippur means a day like Purim. Like means like it, but maybe not as good. So they're two sides of the same coin. Yeah? Sure. We're saying over here, it's a famous idea, right? But it's more than just a play on words. There's a strong connection here between Yom Kippur and Purim. That's the connection they make. We already saw the connection between Har Sinai, we did a little bit, we're doing more, and Purim. Now we're saying there's another connection, and it's actually in the word itself. Yom Kippur means a day, Keh means like. Yeah, Keh means like, Pur, a day like Purim. When something is like something, it resembles it, but it may not be as good. Right? If I say this is like that, but not as good as the original. So maybe we're going to learn something about Purim, but we're actually going to learn something about Yom Kippur as well. Okay. What is this connection between Yom Kippur and Purim? Well, let me ask you, which one do you prefer?
Purim.
Oh, really? You don't like fasting for 25 hours? Standing in shul all day? Regretting all of your sins? Banging on your heart? About all the Lashon Hara you spoke this past year and all the tithes you gave into? Right.
Truth, I think that's more meaningful than Purim.
Well, Yom Kippur, was Yom Kippur a sad day?
No.
That's not a sad day. That's a very, very happy day. Actually, the Gemara says, those who were in the last semester, how the Gemara says the two happiest days in the Jewish calendar are Tu B'Av Yom Kippur. Excellent, Shani. Well, you learned something here. Baruch Hashem. Tu B'Av, right? The coming together of potential families, Shidduch Day, and that's what it was. That's what it was. And Purim. And Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur is a happy day. Why? Because we are starting a new slate. New beginnings are happening. Maybe that's going to be the connection or part of it. Let's have a look inside. Okay? That's the famous piece though, Yom Kippur, Kippurim. Let's see what the Pri Tzaddik says, the Rav Tzaddik HaKohen. We're on page 35. Let's have a look inside. It says, we've already learned, Shekol HaMoadim Yubetelim. All of the Jewish holidays are going to disappear when Mashiach comes. We won't need them anymore. We won't need Pesach anymore because the redemption at the end of days will be even greater than Pesach. So we won't need it. It's going to be like a secondary holiday. However, Purim is never going to go away. There's something eternal, as the Megillah itself, you remember, says about Purim itself. Shneimar, v'yom ha'Purim ha'ela lo yavru b'toch ha'Yehudim. Highlight those words. Lo yavru. It's never going to be lavor. It's never going to leave us. V'zicham lo yasuf mizaram, and it's never going to go away. Purim Purim as well is never going to go. So we see that already there's one connection. Okay. Number one is never nullified. Always there. Yom Kippur is an eternal holiday. Now Yom Kippur is going to change. It's going to have a change in nature, but it will always be there because it is also called V'yetzazot lachem l'chukat olam. It's always there. So already we see there's something eternal and otherworldly about Purim and Yom Kippur. Let's have a look why. We're on page 36. Let's double click on this idea, try to get a little bit of clarity. It's not a difficult idea, but it's a very, very important one. Okay? Well, can anyone guess the connection? Let's think a little bit. Let's think. Sorry to make you think. I apologize on such an early Monday morning. You know?
I think
What do you think the connection would be? Why are we making this connection between Purim and Yom Kippur? Seemingly completely different days. I mean, do you get any more different? How do we celebrate Yom Kippur? Not eating, not drinking, being in a state of not upset, but regret at least for our sins. And Purim is the exact opposite. We're eating and we're drinking and we're celebrating, having a good time and enjoying and laughing. And yet, the rabbi's like, no, those are connected. What do you think the connection would be? Yeah.
I think I'm probably wrong, but to some degree, like on both of the holidays, we're very close to God
Okay, but how? You're right.
because we went in both of them. At the end of it, like at the end of Yom Kippur, you go through this process of fasting and davening, and with Purim it was the same thing. They did the Som when they were waiting for like Esther to
They
go.
did fast as well.
And
Tanit
they
Esther,
davened,
absolutely.
And Mordecai said like Yom Kippur Shiva, so like
Morning.
I feel like it is connected in that sense, the process, and they got closer to God.
So you're saying they seem to have got to the same point, but in different ways. In different ways. You know, it's like in politics. You have this spectrum like this, right? You have the far left, yeah, and the far right, whatever it is, you know, or the other way around. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens is, they're so far from each other that actually, not only they actually come back up, right, and meet each other around here sometimes. You ever see that? Sometimes it's so right, the far right and far left end up meeting on top and actually collude with each other, right? The fascists and this is just a mashal, okay? And they kind of meet up as well. It kind of comes full circle like wings of an eagle. It's so far actually comes together as well. So lahavdil, we're seeing the same thing over here. We're seeing Purim is over here, right? Here's Purim. Here's Yom Kippur. And they're so different. They're so radically different. Actually, they meet up at the same point. They come back to the far edges and they come to the same point, but two very different ways. It makes sense, right? Because when you're so far away, but everything leads to Hashem, that eventually you're going to meet up again. So you kind of meet to the same place. One of them involves, but what's the key over here? What's connecting them? Well, same idea but from different angles. Yeah, okay. The what?
Davening.
Yeah. The process is very, very different. I'm saying you daven on both of them, but they're obviously very different holidays. But what are the two words that make them meet up on top? We discussed this already. Two ideas, yeah.
I think Hashem saved us in both.
Okay.
if they're all
So there's
saved,
definite.
Hashem
Okay,
saved
there's
us.
saving on both. On Purim, that's one idea for sure. On Purim, we were saved physically. Hashem judged us, and we were zocher. We physically saved ourselves. On Yom Kippur, we are being saved spiritually, right? So saving is part of it. Yeah, Yom Kippur, if we don't do Shuvah, we're all going to die, right? Because we have to wipe away our sins. So the idea of saving, right, a Yeshua is definitely part of this. We're going to see that's what he says as well. But it's very different still. Are you scared on Purim? When you celebrate Purim, is there any form of scare? No. What is it? It's all happy and? What's your name? Love. Ahava. So there's one way to connect to Hashem, and that is through Ahava, right? Ahava is one way to connect to Hashem. Is that the only way? No. We also have, what's the other side of the coin? Yira, that's right. Right, we have Yira, we have fear. I don't like the word fear, although it's true sometimes. I like to call it awe. You're in awe of Hashem. There's an element. We said there's a Yira aspect as well. So they're very, very different. Which one is greater? Ahava is always greater. Right? Loving someone, doing something through love because I love that person, I love that thing, I love that institution, that goal, whatever it is, my connection to it. And Rashi says that. Rashi says on Chumash that Yira is important. There should be an element of fear in every relationship. Fear that I'm going to do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. That's always a part of any relationship, and that's important. Right? However, once the, as it were, gun is taken away, the fear, then the whole relationship breaks down. So this is a stepping stone to Purim. So maybe we see that both get you to the same place, to our connection to Hashem, to the spiritual world. However, it starts with fear, but it's Kippur, and then we have to go to Ahava, and then we have to go to love. Okay? Those are two sides of the same coin. Two different ways of getting there. Two very different ways. You walk to a synagogue on Purim, and Yom Kippur, like a completely different religion. You can't even see the difference. I always tell people, that's why we should cancel Yom Kippur for most Jews, unfortunately.
Sorry, that's your holiday.
It is?
Yeah.
He likes that. He's that kind of guy. Yeah. What I mean is, for most people, Yom Kippur has begun to represent Judaism. That's a whole different discussion, not for now. And for them, they go to synagogue once a year. If you say, yeah, I'm a once-a-year synagogue goer, when are they going? And not Simchat Torah, not Shabbat, they're going Yom Kippur. So all of Judaism represents this. It represents this whole fear thing. Are you surprised then when they don't come back again? If that's your only exposure to Judaism, not Shabbat, Simchat Torah, Shavuot, obviously they're not going to want to come back the rest of the year. Would you? Like, oh, that's it? Fasting, that's terrible. I always say, you know what? Send them home in Yom Kippur and say, come back on Purim. That's a better representation of who we are as a people. We do, but most Jews do not. The synagogues are fuller on Yom Kippur. We. Translate the Israelis? Should I say yes, the Israelis? More Israelis than sure. I'm not saying really cancel it, you know. I don't want to get kicked out of the rabbinate again. So at least, right? So because if the whole relationship, if any relationship you have is purely yira, there's nothing there. It's got to be an element of other enjoyment. So, right? And then they'll come back the rest of the year. Does that make sense? I'm not only joking about canceling Yom Kippur. No, I'm really joking, Sarah. Do not cancel Yom Kippur. The Yom Kippur, unfortunately, has begun to represent. It shouldn't represent Judaism because there's more truth in Purim than there is in Yom Kippur. That's my point.
No, but can I share a different idea?
Okay, and then we'll go to you. So yeah.
Okay. So I think that Yom Kippur is more important because in Purim, it's Pur. It's we didn't control our destiny or Pur, Goal. But in Yom Kippur, it's our actions that determine our judgment. And on Purim, it wasn't our actions, it was the money.
You're saying something very good. You don't say Yom Kippur once a year keeps us alive, it gives us a kapara, and our actions determine our judgment. On Purim, ready for this? You're right, it's an event from the past, but our actions are going to determine our destiny. Because Purim, we said, is about the future. Remember we said that? Purim is going to be about the future. That's the only holiday not mevatel. So Yom Kippur fixes me now. But Purim and your attitude towards Torah and Judaism and Jewish life and Jewish history, they are destiny. And we are a people of destiny, not a people of history. I like that. Someone write that down. Title of my next book. After I sell this one. We are not a people of history. We are a people of destiny. I like that. Lindsay, I feel good. I feel good about that. I feel happy about that. Please, you're happy about that. Yeah.
Okay, Roy, can I give you something?
Yes, hit me with it. Tell me you're thinking a little bit.
I do not like this thing going on here.
Yes.
So this semicircle.
I don't like this.
I don't like this. So I'm
No
going,
problema, senorita.
I'm going to give
Get
you,
rid of it.
I'm going to give you.
These Panamanians, I don't care, I tell you. Get rid of it.
I'm going to give you
It's like you're
my.
like your next dictator. Kill him. Yes.
Okay,
What's in your mind?
I'm going to give you my interpretation.
Yes.
Imagine living with her.
No, thank you. I have
Okay.
one wife and 4 daughters, Dayenu. Thank you so much. Thank
Oh,
you,
God.
Baruch Hashem. We have enough in the house.
Okay,
Baruch
wait.
Yes.
So I think
Leanna.
that they may be on the opposite
Extremes.
extreme, but
Yes.
they balance each other.
Okay.
Like you said, Purim is about Hava and Yom Kippur is about fear. So it's like our relationship with God is balanced between fear and Hava, and you have to have that.
Miss
have the
SS,
right
you're
amount.
saying good. You hear that, Raquel? Are you listening to what your friend is saying over here?
So I don't like the semicircle. Can you
Bless
like
you.
erase it because it doesn't make any sense?
You don't like it. So,
It's never gonna happen that something that's on the opposite of one.
no, it does happen. However, I'm going to add to this.
It's like
I feel judged. I'm going to add to this the idea of a balance. No, she's saying good. She's saying good. She's saying, you know what? Less than 2 things. There's a balance over here. We're
Exactly.
constantly like straddling both of Ahava and Yira, and they both are like kind of like meet over there, and they're balanced
Yeah.
together. Like in the cockpit, they have that thing, and you got
Exactly.
it's 2 different sides, one left, one right, and it comes together. I'm not going to raise this because I wrote it, but I am going to say the idea of a balance. They do balance each other out. I will give that to you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to give it to you. Very good. Yes, Kayla.
It's on what you're saying though, like, but even
in like the regular world, we say like the line between love and hate is
Oh.
like so close. So like even things that are opposites, it's like just like a little bit that changes.
That's
it.
good. Yeah, that one. That's a good vote. Yeah, that vote, everyone. That's a nice one. Love and hate. You know, my wife sometimes gets a fight with your spouse, and she says, "I hate you. I hate you." She doesn't hate you. She loves you. She's just really upset with you, right? Or your kids say, "I hate you, Abba. You never buy me anything." I'm like, "There's no room for anything else. Your closets are full. I don't know where to put any more shoes or clothes or toys." You know, they don't hate you. They love you. Your kid's gonna say to you, "I hate you." They don't hate you. They know what hate means. They love you. This is the fine line. How do you know someone really does not like you? Is when they ignore you. The opposite of love is not hate. It's apathy. Apathy. So it's very nice. I like that. That's very nice. I'm not sure how it's connected to this, but it's a great idea. It's a great idea. Okay, we're thinking a little bit. All right, not a bad morning. Let's turn to page 36. Let's see. Rosh Hashanah Pinchas gives a beautiful idea, and he quotes the Maharal, who quotes this idea one more time. Bir HaMaharal, page 36. Shema shemechayev et hitbadlut shnei yamim. The reason these 2 days, Purim and Kippur, will never be nullified is that both pertain to the existence of the Jewish people. Meaning, no Yom Kippur, we wouldn't be here. Yom Kippur is there to wipe away all the sins, because if the sins were to accumulate every single year, just like your taxes, that's what the comparison I like to make. Yom Kippur and tax day. Nobody likes to pay taxes. No one likes to get a bill saying you owe us $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is, or $50,000. No one likes that bill, right? It's the worst thing ever. However, there's funny this. Just yesterday, talking with a good friend of mine, and he told me how he had a 6-month investigation into his taxes. Do you know why? Because he gives away so much tzedakah that the tax people, it comes as a red flag, something weird's going on. And for 6 months they investigated him and his wife and all of his companies, because it made no sense how this religious Jew was giving away so much money. In the end, the tax bill he got was for $220. He said when he got that bill, he was so happy. I mean, that was the only irregularity they could find, which obviously is nothing for 6 months' work. He said he was he said, I was the happiest person writing that check than anybody else. Same thing. No one likes to pay taxes. But if I told you once a year they're going to examine your taxes and free you of your debt, that'll be the best thing ever. I mean, the preparation's going to be a little bit scary, but it's all going to get wiped away. Because if you were not to pay your regular taxes and it were to accumulate, heaven forbid, for 5-10 years, every year you're happy. I'm not paying any taxes, but after 10 years you're like, oh my God, I've got a massive tax bill and I can't afford to pay it. So Yom Kippur is like tax day, right, which you don't appreciate, but one day you will. And you're being guaranteed that if you do it and say the right things, all the taxes are going to be wiped away. Believe me, you'll be happier than 55 Purims. We dance around the streets. That, my friends, is Yom Kippur. So it saves us, because if we were to accumulate, we'd be dead. That's Yom Kippur, he says. Because if not, he says, if not for Yom Kippur, transgression, all the Averot we do, would completely overcome us. Chas v'chalila. Or Kumok Purim, Hitzilo Hashem saved us, Magazera, from this terrible Gezera Nora, La Shmid La Rog Alavet Kol Yudim, that we read about in the Megillah, to destroy, to kill, and wipe out all the Jewish people. So what is the celebration Yom Kippur and Purim? We're happy to be alive. That's a simple connection, right? We're happy to be alive. Happy to be alive. Because not for Yom Kippur we dead spiritually, not for Purim we dead physically. So one is physical, one is spiritual. And we see the way we celebrate or perform the mitzvah, it makes sense. On Yom Kippur, it's a spiritual threat, and then we don't eat. On Purim, it was a physical threat, so we do eat. So even the way we celebrate or enact them both comes from the same place. Right? Remember, the mitzvah of every holiday comes to reflect what actually is going on. It's not like, oh, we're so happy, let's eat. We're happy Yom Kippur as well, but we can't eat. On Tisha B'Av, by the way, then we're upset. Okay, we'll get to that, God willing, then. That's really a day of mourning. We don't eat because who wants to eat? But on Yom Kippur, who can eat? I'm so excited, all my sins are going away. If I said you keep working your taxes and keep working through your forms, I'm going to wipe them all away. I'm not going to stop for a 2-hour lunch or a 10-minute lunch. Every second I'm there, I'm wiping away all my sins, and it's all being wiped away. So it's reflective of the day itself. So he says, for both the days of Yom Kippur and Purim, look at the second paragraph.
Where are you reading?
We're on page 36. We're in the second paragraph. And he says, the feeling of the joy of Purim and the feeling of Yom Kippur are both grounded in life itself. We're happy to have life. It's gratitude for life. That's what it's saying. It's all about life. It's all about life. We'll see it's going to be eternal life, but life as well. Okay? We're happy we're feeling alive. That's the joy. The joy of Purim, on the other hand, is of life itself. The feeling of joy for itself never fades. Right? And he gives them back. Just like the joy of your birthday is never diminished. Since that's why do we celebrate a birthday? And even in the Jewish thought, there's an idea on birthday is a day of gratitude to Hashem. The Lubavitcher Rebbe made a big deal about a person's birthday, trying to get an aliyah to the Torah, the Shabbat. We should be grateful for life. Many people fast, actually, on their birthday. There's such an Indian people to do such a thing, right? We celebrate. A birthday cake. Yeah, it's not a Jewish idea, birthday cake. I mean, you can have one. I mean, we give birthday cakes, but... I know. Yeah. Okay, so you're a Purim person, Sarah. Not a Yom Kippur person. Yeah, me too. Okay? Just like on your birthday, there's a rejuvenation. You're like, I'm happy to be alive. You should be grateful once a year that you're alive. He says the same thing. Although that event happened many years ago. Or in my case, many, many years ago.
That's the second similarity.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's joyfulness for life. He's just explaining it. It therefore emerges that the joy of Purim is not because of the past, because of the great miracle, but rather the feeling of joy I have now that is renewed every generation. So it's not celebrating from the past. I'm reliving that joy, because without it, we'd all be dead. Because as we said, Purim is the only occasion in Jewish history that the entire Jewish people could have been killed. It's the rejoicing of life, physical life, and spiritual life. Yeah. Says Rav Hutner, who wrote a lot about Purim, bottom page 36. He says, so they're not two different things. They're two sides of the same coin. Okay? And that's the Vilna Gaon actually mentions this idea of Purim Kippurim, he says. Kama Purim his Dibrat Kacha Shel Agra, right? The Gaon Rav Eliyahu, that's the Vilna Gaon. Who says, at Ma'amar Chacham ki Yom Purim v'Yom Kippurim, Yesh Pehem Mishgal. There you go. There's your word, Mishutaf. There's this balance, Miss Esses. Okay? There's this...
I mean, you can also see it that like...
Mishakel. It's like like a balance,
you can
right?
also see it that in one we eat and the other one we don't. Like, they balance.
They balance each other out, right? V'katov ala gra, ki halom etzinu be'inyan shel Yom Tov, diyon shel Chatzel Hashem, Chatzel Lachem. See, every Jewish holiday... interesting. So let me give you a little bit of background information. This will make sense to you. Every Jewish holiday is considered to be composed of two parts. Okay? Half to you and half for Hashem. Chetzio Mishalachem and Chetzio Mekadosh Baruch Hu. Right? That's what we eat and celebrate on Jewish holidays. And then we involve in spiritual pursuits. So every Jewish holiday, Shavuot and Pesach and Sukkot, it's half Hashem, right? And half for you. Dina shel Chatzav Lashem v'Chatzio Lachem. So every Jewish holiday is, unlike Shabbat, by the way, which is Kula Lashem, which is all for Hashem. Jewish holidays are both for you and Hashem. You eat and celebrate, and you daven, so it's considered to be half-half. You take care of your needs, as it were, and Kivyachol, take care of Hashem's needs by praying, right? Umahalach, Yom Kippur, he says, you know what? So Purim and Yom Kippur actually are one holiday. They're one thing. They're just two sides of it. Just like every holiday has eating and drinking and praying, right, and spiritual pursuits, and balance each other out, so too he's saying Purim and Kippur aren't just like similar, they're the same thing. They're two halves of the same coin. They're two halves of the same holiday. We're connecting them to actually become one holiday that are celebrated at two different times of the year.
Oh, because one doesn't have for you and one...
Because one is only for you, and one is for Hashem, so by connecting them, actually it becomes one holiday. So Yom Kippurim isn't just like, there's some similarities. We're saying they're actually, in essence, one thing, and we connect them to become one thing. That's what they're saying. Because every Jewish holiday has half for you and half for Hashem. Yom Kippur is all for Hashem, and Purim is all for you, so we're saying, you know what, boom, stick them together, it becomes one holiday. That's what Rav Hutner says, very beautiful idea. Right? The Yom Kippur hu Chatzil Hashem, Yom Purim hu Chatzil Lachem. Right? So he says, Shnei Chatzayim Shel Shleimut Achad. They become one Shalem thing. Become one thing. Yes?
I don't think that praying or Yom Kippur is for Hashem. I think it's for us.
Right, but the service itself is all. We don't take care of our own needs. We're not eating, we're not drinking, we're not showering, we're not covering ourselves in cream, preparing ourselves. So that's seen like a day for Hashem. We benefit from it. So obviously we get the benefit. Hashem doesn't benefit, we benefit. But our actions are for Hashem. We're not taking care of our physical needs. On Purim, it's the exact opposite. Eating, drinking, singing, enjoying, right? All physical pleasures are accentuated. So he's saying really they become two sides of the same coin. Just like, so it becomes one single holiday. That's what he says. Okay, you're right. You're right. In the end, we benefit from it. Page 37, let's finish off this idea. This is from the Zohar, a piece I found. And once again, we see this Purim Yom Kippur. And he says, because in the future, Yom Kippur is going to change. No more Tisha B'Av, no more fast days, except Yom Kippur is going to become a happy day. When Mashiach comes at the end of days, the whole thing's going to change. V'nahafoch. It's going to all turn around. And Yom Kippur, we're going to celebrate. And we're going to eat and drink and have a good time. Why? Because our sins will be totally wiped away. There'll be the final judgment of Hashem. Boop, all gone. And then we're going to be there. Okay? And he says, now we don't wear shoes. But in the future, it says in Shir HaShirim, how beautiful are your footsteps. Right? Meaning, this is a simon from Shir HaShirim, says the Zohar, that eventually we're going to be happy and rejoicing. Okay? And that's going to happen in the future. So Yom Kippur, if you will, is going to actually become like Purim. It's actually going to change. There'll be no more fasting. Happy about that? It's worth Mashiach coming just for that. Dayenu. Just for that. He's saying, because he's just connecting, even they make references to the footsteps of Mashiach. And in the future, we'll be allowed to dance and sing. And our footsteps, he's saying that's related to because we don't wear shoes. On Yom Kippur, we go barefoot. Right? So he's saying that's what it's coming to. It's coming metaking that. That's actually what Shir HaShirim is talking about. No, we will. That's the point. There's no more mourning. No more veilot. It's all joy, all happiness.
I learned that you take off your shoes because it's a spiritual thing. Like Moshe Rabbeinu.
Right, that's absolutely right. But we won't need to at that point for some reason. Okay? That's the Purim and Yom Kippur connection. Yes, Miss SS. You want to get rid of this part too? Can we wipe this away? Happy with this?
If Yom Kippur is going to be like Purim, then what is going to be Purim? Because we're also going to have Purim.
We're not sure. It's a good question. The Rambam says that Tanit Esther may even still be there, and he says Purim will be there. The nature of Purim will change. We'll appreciate it a lot more. How? I don't know. I'm not sure. But there is a strong connection between Mashiach and Purim, which is a chapter in my book, available at Amazon.com. Okay. Shameless plug. There's no shame anymore. Yes.
So we're going to get rid of them, so like you said, like Pesach, but...
Pesach will not be needed. Actually, all the books of Tanakh are going to disappear. We said except the Torah and Megillat Esther.
Right, but so much of the things we do is like Mitzrayim.
Yeah, we don't need that. Exactly. You don't need a Zeichel Mitzrayim because you'll have this new redemption.
But it's such a big part of
I know.
what we are.
It's wild,
So
right?
it's
Gone. It won't be needed anymore. The redemption is going to be so big that it's going to fade in comparison. It won't be needed. That's what takes us to this point, and we reach the next point, not needed.
So all the things we do because of that we won't do, or we're going to be doing for
That's a good
different
question.
reason?
That's a good question. Or maybe we'll do it differently with a new appreciation. Like we see at Purim, a new appreciation. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well,
I will. Yeah.
So the book is on Amazon, right?
Yeah,
Can we ship it? Like, can you ship it outside of America?
I can.
No,
Amazon, I don't know.
no. In Amazon, is that an option?
I don't know.
Sometimes you
Can you
No,
ship?
you have
Does
to
Amazon
courier.
ship internationally? I don't
No,
know.
I'm asking. I mean,
Yeah.
I know in Amazon you have an option to send it to like Israel, but
You do? You can order and ship to Israel?
I mean,
Sometimes.
if you make that option, did you make that? That's an
Oh, I didn't make that option. No, I don't know if I did that.
Do you want me to check?
Yeah, double check, 100%.
It's sometimes I
Thank you, I
it's
appreciate
a
it.
lot of money.
It is important. Okay, check it for me.
I'm checking now.
Okay, next connection. So that's one. Here's another connection as well. So we spoke about Purim Yom Kippur. Now we're going to talk about the connection between Har Sinai.
I don't get it. That whole thing was never nullified.
that whole happy to be alive, the whole life, two sides of the hand, that's
Yeah.
all under never nullified?
Part of it, yeah. The person gets to live, yeah.
So we
Never
haven't,
nullified the Yom Kippur connection.
so we haven't spoken about the second connection.
That's the one connection. No, that's it. That's it.
That's the
So
second
what was the
one.
That's
second
all.
one?
No, that's the first. This is
No,
the
he
second.
just said that's the second.
Yeah, Har Sinai is the second. We're gonna do it
No,
now.
No, now we're doing this is different. Now we're doing this is
So
gone.
what-
We
so
finished
what was
this,
the
now we're moving on to
second
this.
one?
Wait, what is the first? What is the connection?
The
So
fear
don't
versus
fix
The
it.
famous ahava and happy to be alive is the connection.
I thought nullified, never nullified was number one. You wrote number one.
Okay, never nullified and happy to be alive. Okay, you can separate it like that. Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
What do you say?
Okay, so now Har Sinai, which is basically Shavuot.
Oh, this is
So now we're going to connect Har Sinai, i.e. Shavuot, which is when we actually do it, and Purim. Purim is going to make its way, we're going to see, into every other corner of Judaism. Somehow, and everything, every mitzvah really, because we accepted it, we'll see, there's going to be a little bit of Purim. So let's, first of all, now we looked at Yom Kippur and then Purim, let's look at Har Sinai, i.e. Shavuot, and Purim. No, it's not out of stock, it's not out of stock. It just hasn't gone in yet. Yeah, I know, you can still order, It's just because it just went off, thanks.
Like, wow.
You know, I'm not that popular.
so bad.
Not yet. I sold 5,000 copies already.
Wow.
That's
Okay,
not-
Shavuot, no, I'm joking. Shavuot and Purim. So what's Shavuot? So Shavuot is Har Sinai. What happened at Har Sinai? We received the Torah. Now look at this. What do we know about that occasion, at that event? Was it a happy event?
Fear.
Was it a scary? It was a scary event. It was a scary. There was a lot of yira. And we know this because it says, the Gemara says in Shabbat, there's a reason why it appears in the tractate of Shabbat. Look at halfway down page 37. V'yityatzvu b'tach tahar. It says in the Torah, in Shemot, Yud Tet, Yud Zayin, 1917, the Jewish people stood at the foot of the mountain, right? B'tachtit hahar, at the foot of the mountain.
Why is that important?
That's what I'll tell you why it's important. Now, when you read that, you think, fine, there's the mountain, Har Sinai, and we stood around it. But actually, you can read these words, says the Gemara, differently. To read what? Tachtit means literally underneath the mountain. So the plain meaning is next to the mountain. But the Gemara is going to be medayek on the Lashon. It's going to double click on the Lashon and say, well, how would you say around the mountain? Saviv et ahar. It doesn't say that. It says tachtit ahar, which literally means underneath the mountain. But if you look in your rabbi art scroll, Chumash, it'll say they stood around the mountain. But that's not what it means. Tachtit means underneath. Why does it say underneath the mountain? Under the mountain. So the Gemara gives a very famous understanding and says, because Hashem lifted up the mountain, picked it up, and put it over their heads, as it were. It's not literal. It's like this is a metaphor. Hashem didn't literally lift the mountain over their heads, but metaphorically. What does that mean? He held the mountain over their heads so they were underneath the mountain. What does that mean?
Protection.
Protection's not. You're a good girl. Very good. Not protection. Not protection. It's not what that. I mean, it could be, but that's not what it says. Right? If I said I hold a mountain over your head,
Threatened.
he threatened them.
Oh.
He threatened them. The Jewish people were threatened at Har Sinai. Why would Hashem, after all of that, threaten us with annihilation? He threatened us with annihilation at Har Sinai. What? We're standing there for the Torah, Ish Echad, Believe Echad, great unity, and Hashem takes the mountain and sticks it over our heads. And what does he say? You better keep the Torah and the mitzvot. If not, Sham tiyeh kuvratchem. There you are going to die. He threatened them. He put a gun to the Jewish people's heads and says, you got to keep the Torah. But we were ready to accept it. Nasev and Nishma. He's like, oh no, that's fantastic. And I like, the Gemara actually says that in the same place. We said Nasev and Nishma, but he put a gun to our heads. How do we know that that's Tach Zahar, under the mountains? So now the whole Har Sinai episode, says the Gemara, wasn't all fun and games. Hashem was like, yeah, you're going to have to keep the Torah, I'm going to kill you. Why? Why can't it just be us voluntarily saying, oh, I love you, Hashem. Give me your Torah, do your mitzvot. What I'm asking is this. if we voluntarily took on the Torah, which we know because we said, Naseh v'nishma, I will do and I will perform. That is the voluntary. Why wasn't that sufficient? Why do we have to have the voluntary? And by the way, the mountain's on your heads. And if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you. That's what Hashem said. Sorry to make it so. Why do we need both? Why couldn't it just... Here's the question. Listen carefully and give me an answer. Why couldn't it have just said, voluntarily accepted the Torah, Shalom al Israel, off you go, take the Torah, go to Israel, Dayenu. Why isn't voluntary... That's what I'm asking. Why isn't voluntary sufficient that we needed the mountain in our heads? Someone has not answered yet. I know they're going to answer. Give me some answers. Someone has not answered yet. Okay, go on.
Maybe because God wants to just that, like, the mitzvot that He's going to give us are not like, oh, you can choose to, you can choose to not.
Very, very nice. You see, if you do something voluntarily, and it's all volunteer, just like when you, here's a good piece for life. You're going to be involved in a Jewish organization, and you have volunteers. Right? Are they good people?
Yeah.
Fantastic. If I say, I need a volunteer to help me do something around this organization, volunteer to recruit, volunteers are amazing because they are free. Also, they lack an element of responsibility. If someone volunteers, they opt in of their own desire, but they also can opt out because I'm volunteering. I did my 2 months for free. I'm done. Now, that makes sense, right? When someone volunteers, you're like, the best people to work for the volunteers, they're free. But you know what happens if someone volunteers? They have no responsibility. They don't turn up for work 5 days. You're like, hey, where were you? Hey, buddy, I'm volunteering. You can't blame me. You're not paying me anyway. I chose this. There is an element of volunteering to become part of the Jewish people. That is Matan Torah, Naseh v'nishma. It's a great thing, by the way. Make no mistake. I'm not putting volunteers down. All right? Organizations are built up on volunteers. All right? Look at here at Stone College. You have the people who are paid to be here. Hello. Right? And then you have the people who volunteer, run all the clubs and societies. Without that, you're missing something. But they come and they go. There's got to be more than that. Because the Torah cannot just be a volunteer experience. It's got to be a permanent and committed. Good word. A committed experience. You've got to commit yourself to it. A volunteer is committing, but it's not going to last. Because no volunteer, you can't volunteer forever. Now, how long can you volunteer for? You can keep a job forever, but you can't volunteer. Well, nowadays, not so much. But you can't volunteer forever. So Hashem said, you know what? I love this Naseh v'nishma. And by the way, when the Jewish people said Naseh v'nishma, as it's written in Pashat Mishpatim, the Gemara says the angels got excited and they were saying, wow, who gave the Jewish people this secret of the universe that they volunteered? Because Malachim, angels can't volunteer. They have a job, they got a tough, they do it like it or not. And suddenly this whole new concept of volunteering, we're in Naseh v'nishma. We're in and we'll find out what's in it afterwards. That's all well and good. That's fantastic. But it's not enough. You see, you've got to have a gun saying, you've got to do this. Because there's going to be times when you don't want to do it, which we all have. I don't want to go to shul. I don't want to go to Torah. I don't want to come to Rabbi Hadro's classes. I feel tired. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And you've got to put tefillin. And I don't want to keep Shabbat. And you still got to do it. It can't just be Naseh v'nishma. It's also got to be a little bit of yira, fear. How's that represented by this pasuk in the Torah? Says the Gemara, they stood under the mountain. Hashem said, you got to keep, I'm going to kill you. That's like, I know you think you're volunteering, but there's more than that. You got to do it. There's an element of, we are Jews and we have to do this. I know it's all fun and games, you got to love Judaism, and that's true. But sometimes, and believe me, I'm the same, and we're all the same. It's the same for everyone. I've had enough. I can't be bothered. I don't want to go to shul. You have to go to shul. Why? You're the rabbi. Okay, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you got to do. So that's the element. So Har Sinai was a scary event. Har Sinai was scary. Thunder and lightning, the atmosphere was not scary. And it was Ishcha B'Lev, we were unified, but it was a very awesome event. And that's our connection to Judaism, and it carried on for a long time with this year thing. Look at what he says. This teaches us, says the Gemara, that Hashem suspended the mountain over our heads like a barrel, like a gigit. Why a barrel is an interesting thing, but not for now. Okay. From here, we learn that the Jewish people, says Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says, from here there's a great excuse for the Jews not to keep the Torah. Because they put a barrel over their heads. Says the Gemara, you know what? This description of the Torah, how scary it was, and the barrel over our heads, that's what the mountain was like, we could turn around and be like, you know what? We didn't really want it in the first place. We were forced into it. I don't want to be Jewish anymore. Says the Gemara, that's what Rashi understands it, right? They could have said, our acceptance of the Torah was forced upon us. You made us. We had no choice. Rabbah says, you know what? You're right. It's true. There is an element of coercion that came with our Sinai and that existed for over 1,000 years. Right through the existence of the first Beis Hamikdash and the destruction of the first temple, Beis Hamikdash. However, he says, you know what happened? This is unbelievable. This carried on until the days of Achashverosh. Says the Gemara, in Shabbat, Afal Pikein Hador Shekablu b'mei Achashverosh. Those days we accepted it. Why? Because we read the pasuk, Kimu v'kiblu. They accepted the Torah again. There was a reacceptance of the Torah at Purim. A reacceptance in Purim. The days of Purim, we went through Har Sinai Part 2, the sequel. Really? Purim? It took that long? Yeah. The Jewish people were evolving over the years. And our relationship to Judaism, just like in our lives, our relationship to Judaism changes and evolves and matures. And it goes from just being scared because you're in yeshiva as a kid to being older and learning Torah because you actually like it, not because you just want credit or whatever it is. Your relationship to Torah and Judaism, God changes and evolves, so it should do. So too, the Jewish people's relationship to Judaism as a nation evolves and changes, and it starts as scary, and then later on in life, you start to enjoy it, right? Your kid's going to say to you, oh, I hate Chumash, I hate Torah classes. And you're like, oh no, it's so fun. No, it's terrible. We get tests and we get all this. And you realize that eventually their relationship evolves. It gets to a point where they see actually it's really good for them, right? And Shabbat starts as a restriction. Oh, but I want to play with that, I want to play with that. And later on, they're like, oh, thank God for Shabbat, right? I don't have to look at my phone. It changes. The relationship to things change. So too our relationship to God and Torah and mitzvah changed. At first it was scary. And for 1,000 years we were children, it was scary. And then we're like, wow, you know what? This is actually really great and fun and enjoyable, yada, 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 yada. Okay?
Wait, but, I mean, Purim, it was still from fear.
It was, but when the our relationship, we were scared. But then it changed and the redemption came and it was like, wow, you know what? I found a connection over it. Somehow the connection changed and it turned into Ahava.
When?
Which, after redemption.
No, but it's always after redemption you love God.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Like Purim, I mean, the only reason that we started fearing and praying to God was because...
Maybe the better word is we started to appreciate it. It always starts there. It always takes a little bit of pain to get to the joy. And then the joy came and our relationship changed. The joy that came with that redemption was so different from anything else we experienced beforehand. Even Har Sinai, Beit HaMikdash. By the way, it's also a weird thing to say. Because the high point of Jewish history was actually the first temple. The first temple. Right? It was so good during the first temple, the days of Shlomo HaMelech, right, that they didn't accept converts. Because they were suspicious of their motives. It was so good to be Jewish. You know? They were suspicious, whatever. So it's hard to believe, but even during those days, we didn't reach the level of Ahava, except when we saw how Hashem takes care of us, and how maybe it's all the bad stuff that happened is actually good. Something's going on over here. Something's going on. All the bad things that happen really are working for our benefit. Maybe that was where the joy came from. It wasn't just like they tried to kill us, we won. It's more than that. It's more than that.
Why not Hanukkah?
Hanukkah was later. Hanukkah took less work.
less work.
Less understanding. Hanukkah was kind of like presented, open miracles. Here in Purim, we had to dig a little bit deeper. Hanukkah is a very different reality. It's a whole different reality. On Purim, it was the entire Jewish people about to be wiped out, and the redemption came. Yeah.
Could it be that, like, in the times of the first Beit HaMikdash, like, they found love for Hashem themselves, and, like, after this, they, like, the Jewish people couldn't find love for Hashem. Like, they were able to find love with for Hashem on their own, but then Hashem saw that, like, something else was needed because...
So you're saying, Har Sinai, say it clearly, Har Sinai, it was forced upon us.
Yeah, and
on Purim, they had to find it themselves. That's kind of what's going on. That's kind of what's going on.
It was
there.
necessary, right?
Yeah. We had to go through this. So that's the idea of kimu v'kiblu. It just changed. Once of the redemption, maybe all the bad stuff became, wow, you know what? Maybe it's not all bad, all the bad stuff that we are going
No,
through.
but I think it's like you also said it last semester.
Yeah.
When we spoke about the story of Hanukkah. It's
Yeah.
like to find like a reason why the Hanukkah story happened to us. But I think it's a little like tzavua, like I don't know how would you say, like
Command.
No, like hypocrite, because like we're saying now, oh, why did the Holocaust happen? So we're saying no one has a reason why it happened.
No one has a reason.
Right, but why? Because it happened in 1942, 1945.
Very, very
but
good.
Hanukkah, because it happened a million years ago. And
So,
we don't
you
even
know what?
when.
On Purim, okay, let's go with that. Purim closed what started on Har Sinai. Then, for some reason, we understood Har Sinai better. And you're right, just now, we don't know the reason for the Holocaust. But it could be at one time in the future, we will have a better understanding and we'll we'll appreciate all the challenges we went through at some future point. We're saying that Purim closed off and started Har Sinai. We're saying it's like an arc. It's an arc. What started at Har Sinai arced and ended over here. It's one thing.
What happened?
It's not one thing. It's not like Purim Yom Kippur. It's like finished off a history for us. It kind of closed off a question that we had from Har Sinai to that point, like 1,000 years. 1,000 years to go to that point. What?
Har Sinai was a good thing.
It was a good thing. Let me try it like this. 1 second. 1 second, Rick. Let me try it like this. Here's a good comparison. They say that the mountain over our heads was like a chuppah over the Jewish people. Like a chuppah over the Jewish people. That's the analogy they use in Chazal sometimes.
Har Sinai.
Yeah. Just like a mountain was over our heads, so to the chuppah. So let me ask you, under the chuppah, that's the comparison they're making. Yes, you are threatened.
Nervous.
Why?
Why you
What?
Are you scared?
No.
Are you fearful?
What?
So the answer is, hopefully not. There is an element of it. Why? You're scared of doing the wrong thing. You're starting a new relationship. Har Sinai was a new relationship. We married Hashem, Kivyachol. We stood under the chuppah at Har Sinai. You're starting a new relationship. Think of it this way. Starting a new relationship, there's a little bit of fear, I'm going to do the wrong thing. Okay? There's an element of fear, I'm happy, but I'm scared, starting a new life together, what's going to happen, what's the future going to be like. There's an element of pachad, but you have faith in Hashem. But there's an element of, are we going to be able to afford, are we going to have children? You forget all that because you're in the moment. But there's an element of yira that comes with, and there should be. Right? The wedding is a celebration. Har Sinai was a tremendous celebration. But there's an element of, what's going to happen? Right? It's a scary time. We're about to start Jewish history. Are we going to be able to do the right thing and stay faithful to God and the Torah mitzvot? And there's ups and downs. So too, when you get married, it's also a new beginning, and there's a little bit of anxiety. You're getting a very good launch party, but the day after it's just you and him. Right? That's it. Same thing. Same thing. Har Sinai was that beginning. Purim was, as it were, a culmination of like, I get it. So you go from the fear, do you love each other under the chuppah? You don't even know each other, you haven't done anything. Right? You haven't lived together yet. Right? You know what? You don't know each other alike. Right? So the chuppah is like, oh, we're in love. You're not in love. You know what it's all about. You just jump in, you volunteer, but there's a chuppah over your head. There's a chuppah over your head. Right? You better make sure that, you're in this forever. So Purim, if you will, is a culmination of that. Yeah, Raquel.
And I think that in Purim they go to see the full picture
Okay, very nice. You want to say on on Har Sinai we didn't have a picture of our history. On Purim they could stop and look back at a lot of stuff that happened to them up to that point and made a lot of sense. And that's what Rashi says. That's what the Gemara says, remember? So Rashi's commentary in the Gemara that they accepted Har Sinai for a second time on Purim. Ma'ahavat hanes shenaseh lahem. For the love of the miracle that happened. That's Rashi's words. The love of the miracle, top of page 38. Right? The love of the miracle that happened to them. And he said, where's that based upon? So it says in Esther, towards the end of Megillat Esther, second source on page 38. Kimu v'kiblu. They were Mekayim, Hayudim aleim ve'al zaram upon themselves, the children of Kol, and Nil v'maleim, v'lo yavo liot osim et shnei hayem ha'me'ela, kavu b'zban v'kol shana v'shana. They realized at that point that actually there was a love relationship between them and Hashem, which for some reason, and I'm not sure, I'm just telling you what it says, they didn't get up to that point. Again, let's use a modern day example. Let's use a positive one. Creation of the state of Israel. Creation of the state of Israel. Do we all love Israel? Did we always love Israel? So how come we celebrate 1948 or 1967? Was the Kotel always there? But suddenly our relationship to the land itself changed. An event can happen that changes our relationship to something that's always been there. Nachon? It's just suddenly, I connect to it differently. You could visit, there's a logistical thing. Right? Before 67, it was my grandmother used to go visit the Kotel. It was impossible to visit the Kotel. After 67, you could. Right? It became a much more easier thing. Right? So it suddenly became like, but the Kotel's always been there, but my relationship changes to it. One is logistical, because now I can get close to it without being shot, right? By the Arabs or the British, but besides the Jordanians. But you know what? So I think of Israel, it just changes. An event can change your relationship to a thing. So too, Purim, we always had the Torah, but after that event, my relationship to that thing changed. Somehow it changed. How do you describe it? It's almost indescribable. It just changes. It's not just like now we're able to go there. I'm celebrating that, and we still feel echoes of it 70 years later, 600 years of that same thing. Maybe that's a fair example. Okay, you can put that in your books you write about Purim. Okay, yeah.
I still don't get the term, like the basic meaning of
Kimu v'kiblu. So the basic meaning is they were Mekayim. They were Makabel the mitzvah of Purim. That's the basic understanding.
What does Mekayim mean?
Is to fulfill.
And
Masha kiblu.
Kabel means
To receive.
To receive.
So what I'm understanding it, the basic Peshat understanding is that Esther and Mordechai said now we have to keep Purim forever. And it's a new holiday every single year, and they accepted it. That was a big deal. Creating a new Jewish holiday, that's not so easy. That's a big deal. And they did. That's the basic. The Gemara is saying, you know what? There's another layer here. There's another layer. They were Mekayim. They finally fulfilled Masha Kiblu. What's Kabbalah? Kabbalah, Torah, Har Sinai. They were finally able to Mekayim that which they received before. They finally received the Torah. Why? Because, they finally, that's the idea of Kimu v'Kiblu. So Kimu v'Kiblu is a code word for Har Sinai. Okay?
Wait, just to confirm,
Yeah.
just because at Har Sinai, Israel said Na'aseh v'Nishma?
Yeah. At Har Sinai they said Na'aseh v'Nishma. At Purim, right, which is scary, we said, that's coercive, that's Tachtahar. On Purim, they didn't need that. They accepted it, it was so joyful that people connected with a whole different reality through Ahava. That's all. That's the idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other sources just accept it. Page 39, right? We see the Jewish people arrived at Har Sinai. They were overcome by the magnitude. It was big. It was scary. Clouds of glory, of glory. Moshe Rabbeinu on the mountain. They heard Hashem's voice. They were scared. They actually said, no, we'll hear the first 2 Dibrot they heard. And the other 8, they said, Moshe Rabbeinu, tell it over because we're too scared. It's too awesome an experience. Okay? And he says that if you don't accept it, I'm going to have to stop all of creation. And we're going to go back to Tov Vavohu. And that's a continual experience we have every Shavuot, right? The awesomeness of it. Okay? It came from pressure. What was the pressure, though? What were they really scared about at Har Sinai? So on page 40 we see, actually, there's one thing they were really scared about. It wasn't just the sounds and the acceptance. It was actually So here we're trying to understand precisely what it was. The Midrash says they were happy to receive the Torah, but that's the written Torah. The Torah bichtav. The Torah bichtav, that they were happy to receive. What they were scared about was the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, which had all the details. That was the reluctance. The reluctance, Har Sinai, that Hashem had to put the mountains on their heads, was what aspect of it? Was the aspect of the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah. Now that they needed coercion into. So now we see it very differently. We're saying,
Why would they be scared of it?
because if you look at the oral Torah, there's a lot of details and a lot more information and a lot more responsibility and all the Rabbanit, the rabbinic, there's a lot more. If you look at the written Torah, there's not so much, just like headlines. But the oral Torah, what we now call the Gemara, which didn't exist as the Gemara, then it was just an oral Torah, there the details were written and then, you think you can do it, but you can't. So the written Torah, Har Sinai, they're happy to accept. It's a very famous idea. But the oral Torah, the Torah Sheba'al Peh, that they didn't really want to accept. That's why they needed the gun pointed at their heads, the mountain over their heads. That, says the Midrash Tanchuma, says, really, they were happy to receive the Torah. The Nasav and Ishma was the written Torah. But the oral Torah, there was no Nasav and Ishma. They were scared. They didn't want to go through with it. A lot more details. This you can do, that you can't do. Then already they needed it. That was the difference, he says. The Nasav and Ishma part was for the written. The mountain over the heads was for the oral Torah, Sheba'al Peh, right? So Amar Lahen ala Torah Sheba'al Peh, sheyesh ba dikdukei mitzvot, all the details of the mitzvot. Kalav churmot, the lenient stuff and the strict stuff. Right, he right, kamavis. It's like hard. It could kill the kasha, kishol kinata. It's a much stronger thing. So that already was difficult. So what did Purim do? In Purim, they accepted the oral Torah. They said, you know what? That's what they accepted finally. They finally accepted the fact, the reality that without the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is now there's an entire tractate of the Gemara called Megillah. So it's kind of like made its own book, if you will, unlike Hanukkah. So over there, they accepted the Torah Sheba'al Peh. We realize there's two sides to this whole thing. Yeah? Get it? That was and 40 now, page 40. They accepted, finally, what did they accept? The Kim of the Kibbutz, according to the Midrash, was actually on the oral Torah, the Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Bichtav, they accepted at Har Sinai. The oral Torah, they accepted, but never really accepted it. Came Purim, we're in, and our love for the Torah Sheba'al Peh changed as well. Yeah? That's what it
That
says.
was only the Mishnah because the Gemara didn't come out yet. But
Well, we always had explanations, right? The Mishnah was the first time it was written down into print, right? But the Gemara, the information we see in the Gemara was also being discussed before, right? It goes back to the Tanaim, right?
But when was Purim time? When was the
Purim time was between the first and second base of Mikdash. We always had the oral Torah. The oral Torah was given at Har Sinai.
Yeah.
Explanation was given there as well.
Right. So then the oral Torah.
It wasn't written down. It wasn't written down. Right. It wasn't written down until much, much later.
Yeah.
Right.
So then they're talking about fine.
Torah Sheba'al Peh is an idea of discussing the details
so
of
that's
it.
confirmed and accepted.
They always accepted it, but there wasn't a love for it. The Dikduk at Har Sinai, they're like, whoa.
They just,
The Torah, I'm in. But you're telling me I can't touch this and I can't move that and I got to keep Shabbat and I got this and how to do it and all the details. That took them time to accept, according to this. And that's what they finally accepted at Purim.
I just don't see why Purim, like the story of Purim is, like, what's the I just don't see the difference. It's just a story.
It's not just, that's what I'm saying, it's not just a story, it's an event. That event was mind-blowing.
From this event, why? There's nothing different between this event, everything that happened to us before. Fine, I'm not talking about Hanukkah and all after. I'm talking about before. There is no difference. We always, through history...
It's hard for us, I know.
Someone tried to kill us and we won. Someone
Yeah.
tried to kill us and we won. What's the difference? There is no difference.
Somehow, okay, that's what we're trying to say. You gotta see it in there. You gotta dig into it a little bit and see that it changed us as a people. Somehow, this event, in fact, we have created a whole Jewish holiday that everyone
Everyone
keeps.
changes as a people. I just don't see
This was a much more positive way.
Do you think that this event, oh fine, let's go to the future. Do you think that this event affected us more than than the Hanukkah story affect us more than
Yeah.
the
Differently.
Holocaust affect
Differently.
us?
Differently. The Holocaust is a good example of a negative thing that affects us forever. We're never going to be the same. The amount of people that died during that time in our relationship, it changed us. Yeah. That's why it's called the Holocaust. Right? It's a negative thing. But yeah, it changes in such a negative way. Just like whenever we have the land of Israel now. It's not. It just changes us. There's something about
You
it.
don't see
And-
how Purim changes because it happened I don't know how many years ago, but it changes like the Holocaust
It
changed
was no
Jewish
longer
people.
about our religion.
it's hard to see. It's hard to see.
I don't
It was-
I mean,
it
yeah,
was
No,
no
but it
longer
changed.
about
Like
us
it changed
as-
the Jewish people.
Before it was
Back
about
then it
religion,
changed.
they
We
wanted
don't
to
see
kill.
it
They
now
didn't want to
because
kill us. They wanted
what
us to
happened
choose
so long
religion.
ago.
Yeah.
So what's
Purim,
the
they
difference?
wanted
Why
to
is it
kill
so
us,
special?
not
Because
Because
then,
it
like,
changed.
what happened in Spain?
Because-
Hanukkah they tried to. Well, Spain was much
Because it
after.
changed.
But we're saying at this point it set up a precedent that changed us. And maybe what Kayla's saying, it's like basically up to this point it was always trying to kill us and hurt us. And here, it just opens us up to a whole new reality. Somehow our relationship to who we are as a people changed from this event.
Isn't it?
It made us our religion, and being before and after they tried to change our religion. Here it was kind of like we are our religion, so we're gonna kill the people.
No, what about like Egypt? I mean, we were the
Listen,
Jews.
Egypt was a very big event. That starts the whole process. But it can't just be about Mitzrayim. If it's all about Mitzar and all about plagues and Hashem, that's all Yira. That's all fear. This was a whole different experience. That's what we're trying to get over here. It's
Also,
tough. It's not easy.
I don't
They
see
didn't
it.
try to kill us, and they just didn't want us leaving. They were scared we were gonna.
Well, they
go
were
up
killing us.
against
We were
them.
slaves. We were
Yeah,
slaves.
we're
Right.
slaves, like, to-
Okay, when we get to Pesach, we're trying to. That's going to come after this. We'll try to
They
see there's
said
a
we were gonna
different.
overtake them. It wasn't like they don't.
I just like I don't remember history so much, like the Bible history, so I can like I need to see events that happen that you know that I'm sure there are
How it
events that
plays
are
out.
meaning.
How it plays. Okay, we'll stop over there. We did a lot today. Well done.